Thursday morning, and a beautiful, cool morning it is here in Jackson, California. And I've been just sitting. I got here a little bit early this morning, and so I've just been sitting here enjoying all the sights and sounds of this space. I just love it. It's so inspiring to me. Um, there is drip sounds as the trees are continuing to shed the rain that came. There is a low mist all over that covers the ground as it's so cold here, and um, the wet ground is there's some evaporation going on, and so there's this mist everywhere. Trees are turning colors. I love this space. Love the cool air. So welcome everybody. I see so many of these names coming through. I'm missing all of them, sorry. Mike and Kim, I see you. Carmen Lego, I do see you today. Welcome this morning. I saw Jan Akins, I think Wendy Chadwick. There's Steve and Andrea. Hope you guys are doing well, Steve. I hope you're feeling better. There's my mom. Welcome to you this morning. And let's see, who else did I see? I think Janisa, I saw your name. Forgive me, I missed some names this morning. Karen Faust, good morning to you. Yeah, this space is really special up here. I've really grown to appreciate it. I can hear, often there's turkeys that kind of roam through here, different parts of the day, oftentimes while I'm filming in the morning, but I can hear them behind me down in this draw. The hens are yelping. That's their little locator call, so they can find each other and group up because they like to travel around in groups. What is a group of turkeys called? I don't know if you heard that one. I just heard a yelp. Anyway, and then there's a variety of trees all around me. I'm looking at a white oak right here that its trees are starting. Its leaves are starting to turn yellow. Right behind me is a black oak, which is uncommon for this elevation. They're usually in high upper elevations, Pioneer and on up. And so it's kind of cool to have this black oak behind me. And then the rest are, most of them are live oaks. And then over to my right over here is a grove of ailanthus trees, which aren't native to this area. They were planted here by Chinese immigrants who used to live on this hill. It was a tent city, and back in the gold rush days, this whole hillside was called Butte City, and this was the area of the Chinese camp, and they brought these ailanthus trees with them. They're called the Tree of Heaven because I'm saying all these wonderful, great things, and my mic. Anyway, I'm inspired nonetheless. Thank you for pointing that out, Wendy. But these ailanthus trees were brought here from Asia by the Chinese, and so they're called the Tree of Heaven because they grow really fast and they provide shade, and which is nice in the summertime, obviously. So I hope you're all doing well today. Today is we've finished up our study on the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus, and so a couple of people were asking yesterday about. I had made mention of the prayer of Examen by Saint Ignatius. He's the one who's credited with it, and it's easy to find if you Google prayer of Examen. I put the title of it in the I put that in the title of today's message devotion. So it's easy to Google, and you can actually write down there. It depends on what version you see. There's usually anywhere between 4 and 6. Points to it of the prayer, and this is a prayer I use often. I said yesterday where I pray it just before I go to bed if I'm laying down, and sometimes I get a little anxious when I lie down to go to sleep. Lots of times I'm just so tired I'm out, but sometimes I lay down and I'm having anxious thoughts, and so I use the prayer of Examen to kind of quiet my spirit and my mind and just reflect on the day, and I love falling asleep to that. It gives me a right spirit. I also use it in the mornings to reflect on the previous day. So it's a prayer of reflection And the reason I like it so much is that it really helps us to live very intentionally. There are so many things that we experience in a day. If we don't stop and reflect on those experiences, they kind of just fade into the background, at least for me. They fade into the background. I even forget that I had that interaction with that person or I did this thing. I get home. I'm a typical guy. I get home. Martha says, "How was your day?" I say, "Great." I might be able to come up with a couple of examples of what I mean by that. Or I say hard, and there's usually just one reason why it was hard or something. I don't give a lot of, information about my day because that's just not how I think and just my normal thoughts, right? Typical guy. But the prayer of examen helps me to slow down, stop, and examine every part of my day, the previous day, or if I'm praying this at night, that day, and reflect on it. All of the interactions. And this is so important to, God speaks to us really, I think, uniquely and powerfully in many of our interactions throughout the day. How did we respond to a given situation? Maybe something somebody did or said to us kind of provoked a thought, or I should think about that further. But then we go on with our day, and we never really circle back around to that interaction or how God was speaking to us or even using us in a particular part of the day. So the prayer of examen is an extremely helpful tool to reflect on our day and see how God is interacting with us on a moment-to-moment, interaction to interaction, task by task experience. And it's really life-giving. I love this prayer. In fact, I have in my hand the 3x5 card that I just carry in the front cover of my Bible, and it has written down each of the points of the prayer of examen. And so most of the time I don't use this. I have it in memory, but there are times when I take it out and just and see it in more clear, succinct ways, and it provokes different things in me in this prayer. So I'm going to walk through each of the points of the prayer, explain each point today and its value. Okay, this is how you pray the prayer of examen. Okay, the first thing, there's one on this version of that I have written down has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts. I'll just read each one of them briefly, and great exercise. In fact, we had a prayer night earlier this week, and we're going to do more of those. And each time we're going to try to experience different aspects of prayer. Tuesday night probably was fairly unique to some people who'd never experienced prayer like that, how we led prayer in that way. There are so many ways to experience prayer. Prayer is so life-giving. Sometimes we only limit it to intercession. Just going to God for our needs or somebody else's needs, thank Him for a provision, and that's about it. And our prayer life is so much more robust than that. Our relationship with God and how we interact with Him through prayer is an amazing thing. I'm learning more and more and more all the time. So as we do future prayer dates, you'll probably do a night where we just focus on the prayer of examen and just walk through it in its practice. So here are the 7 points that I've written down here. It varies anywhere between 4 and 7 steps. Depends on what version you're looking at. You can just Google it, prayer of examen. But first one says, thank God for the gifts of life and this day. So the first couple steps are just getting our mind and our heart into that space of interaction with God and allowing God's Spirit to speak to us and allow God to, we're quieting our mind, quieting our heart, and tuning in. So the first couple points are that. It's not a lot of work. We're just kind of entering into this space to allow God to speak to us. Very first point, thank God for the gifts of life and this day. Whether you've just lived this day or you're praying this in the morning, it's about the previous day. God, thank you for life. Thank you for the gifts. So we're focusing on the goodness of God's gifts of life and the day. Point number 2. Again, we're kind of entering into this space. We ask God. So first of all, you thank God. Second of all, you ask God to allow you to see the day as you have lived it in light of God's will. So we're going to apply a particular filter. It's not, did I live this day efficiently? Did I get a lot of stuff done? Did I have fun? Those are all filters of how we evaluate our days. But the filter we're going to apply with the prayer of Examen is, how did I live this day in light of God's will? Okay, so we're focusing in on, and let me just say this, that each of these phases, we have to rest in openness and grace. If you're like me, I've said this before, I'm a recovering perfectionist, and so I have a very harsh inner critic. And so when I begin to evaluate myself, I usually apply this, tremendously unreasonably, unattainably high standard, and I beat myself up. Grace. As we enter into this prayer, let grace abound. So ask God to allow you to see the day as you lived it in light of His will. So we're going to begin to apply that filter. God, and we're not doing any evaluation yet. This is, again, just an entering in. God, open my heart, open my mind to my experiences today as I have lived it in light of your will. All right, step 3. Spend time reflecting on the events, interactions, and emotions of the day. Again, we're not evaluating yet. We're just asking God, okay, open up my heart and mind to how I lived according to your will. And now I'm going to begin to reflect on all my interactions, what I did, how I felt, the emotions of the day. These are really important in helping us to see how God is at work in us and give us clues to how we can potentially grow. Thank Him for observation of our growth. So we're evaluating our interactions, our emotions, and the things that happened that day. And just spend a few minutes reflecting. And God will bring this to mind. I usually do it in a chronological way. Initially, at least, I start with the morning. What did I do? And I think through all of the events and the interactions, how I felt. And I don't cast any judgment on it. I'm not critiquing it. I'm just reflecting on those experiences from morning until evening. Everything that happened. And it's surprising how it's kind of a fun exercise because God reveals things that I had totally forgotten about, that I did or said or interacted. And so He's calling up we're asking God to call up all of these reminders of how our day went, and all of the details of it. And I do that first in a linear, chronological way, but then God continues to kind of spill in different things that I've done and said, and people that I saw or talked to. He just keeps spilling it in if I miss something in the first chronological sweep. And so all these things just kind of start spilling in. So basically we're just taking all these things and putting it on the table. We've asked God, thank God for the day, ask Him to reveal Himself to us and how we lived our life out according to His will. And we're just taking everything we did and we're putting it on the table so we can see it all. That's this third step, is simply spending time reflecting on the events, interactions, and emotions of the day. 4, ask for insight into the ways your responses were good, life-giving, or healing. So initially, you're just looking to get everything on the table, and you look at it and you say, okay, what of this day was good? What of this day was life-giving? Was there anything healing about my experiences, my interactions, the things that happened, the things I did, said, people in my life, all these things, just for today? What were the good things? As, you starting to look through this filter of God's will, right? So we're starting to connect our actual day-to-day conversations, even some menial tasks. We're starting to connect it with how God is working in and through us to minister to us, and how He's used us to minister to others, and so on. And we're mixing that all together. Got it on the table. God, reveal to me the good things, the life-giving things, that I did or received and experienced today or yesterday, depending on the context of our prayer. That's number 4. Number 5. 5. Ask for insight into the ways your responses may have been insensitive, unloving, or damaging to others or yourself. So then God, reveal to me, as I look at all these things I did on the table here, I'm keeping it in my forefront of my view. God, reveal to me where I was insensitive. Could I have said or done something that may have offended somebody, or that was damaging in some way to someone else or to myself? And we reflect on it, again, without judgment, without a harsh critic. You're just observing those things, okay? It has to be sprinkled with grace, or else this exercise is unfun for sure. Grace of God. Let grace of God abound. So we're just observing those interactions we had that may have been insensitive, harmful, damaging to someone else or to ourselves. That's number 5. Number 6, we pray for forgiveness, healing, reconciliation, and release. So we take those things, how we've may have been insensitive, may not have been really in tune to God's will, may have responded in a real kind of a fleshly way, and we say, God, forgive me. Confess those things to Him and ask for forgiveness, ask for healing, and then release those things. Once we confess them and give them up to God, they're gone. We can release them unto God. We don't have to keep beating ourselves over the head with, this interaction or that. And but it leads us, as we apply the filter of God's will and we evaluate our interactions. We see the good things we've done. We see the things that may have been damaging or insensitive, and we just, God, forgive me. Forgive me for those things that I did that may have brought harm or damage to someone else or to myself. And once we get through that, we get to our last point, which launches us, if we do this in the morning, launches us into the day, or as we lay down in bed, if we're doing this at night, prepares our hearts for the next day. This is kind of the clean slate, right? We've evaluated everything, we've asked forgiveness, and now we look forward. This is the last point. Offer God the next day. This is our offering to Him, right? Ask God to be present in your thoughts, actions, and relationships as you move on to live a new day more fully alive to the presence of Christ. I love this prayer. I love saying, okay, God, I enjoyed the day. Thank you for the gifts of today. Examine everything, open my heart to understand your will and how I lived this life today. We examine each part, put it all on the table. We look at the things that were good and life-giving and healing. We look at the things that may have been damaging or insensitive. We ask God for forgiveness for those things. We clean the slate. We release those things. And then we look forward. Okay, God, I give you today. I give you the next day. Lord, show me, work in me. Help me to be more fully alive to your presence in this upcoming day. I dedicate it to you. I love this interaction with God. It's so life-giving to me, and it helps us to be so intentional about our life. If we do this with some regularity, I can't say I don't have a regular way I do this. I would just say I do it a handful of times a week. 3-4 times a week I do this prayer. And it is so helpful to evaluate our day, to be present to God and to His will, and to call God in to our lives, even in the mundane tasks of the day, that we might be fully alive to Jesus as we live out our day. That's the value of the prayer of Examen. So I hope that is helpful to you. I hope you learn, and it's something we practice. It's not something that you do once and that's good. I experience it different every day because every day is different. And so it's a very interactive prayer. I really appreciate it. I pray that God is more fully alive in you today. I pray that the presence of Jesus is fully alive in you, that you experience it today, that you release those things of the past that maybe you were not very proud of, that didn't really pan out the way that you wanted. Release those to God and embrace today in the presence of Jesus. May God fill you. May God interact with you. And as you interact with others, may he work through you to be a blessing today. We'll see you on Sunday morning. If not, we'll see you back here on Monday. Bless you.